waking up in the morning and knowing that you're going to be working really hard for 6 hours was always something that was difficult to deal with. And on the drive to the work site, it was usually 10 to 15 minutes, and you were just thinking about all the things that you were going to have to do in the day. We had to build a roof today, or we had to build blocks today. But one thing that was always unexpected is every time we got to the work site, there were always kids there who would run up to us right when we got there with big smiles on their face and just grab our hands and want to be picked up and held and played with. And it was something that always lifted our spirits right when we got to the work site.
When you see a child that's in need, it's a lot easier to reach out and at least think you're helping that kid, because they might not be able to communicate directly with you and tell them their problems. But on a more real level, it's the fact that you can actually pick that kid up and like feel like you're comforting him and providing like not only some sort of emotional or some sort of support like that, but more, holding the kid and comforting them directly and physically. I think that's a lot easier to do.
I think we gravitate towards the kids more just because it's easier to interact with them, especially like the really small children. They aren't probably talking a lot anyway, so like there's not as big of a language barrier, and it's not as big of a deal if I can't hold a full conversation with a little kid, because I can make them laugh or smile or just play with them, and it's comfortable and it works. Whereas with an adult, I feel like I'm expected to be able to talk to them, and obviously I couldn't because I wasn't fluent in Creole, so I think that was one reason it was easier.
We're homies, dude. I taught him how to say rock in Creole.
I think that it's easier sometimes to work with kids as opposed to adults. In our retreats prior to going to Haiti, we talked a lot about not being conquerors and not dominating individuals, and we really have to be active in that when working with adults, because we have to actively think about their thoughts and opinions and their wants and needs. But with children, it's easier to go into the situation and get some immediate gratification, because they're easy to please and they're easy to make laugh, and you don't have to be as actively concerned about maybe the repercussions of your actions.
I think she loves him.
It was apparent when we first arrived at the first work site that Kevin was malnourished or sick or had some sort of illness. And so I think as people, we tend to reach out to those who are more obviously in need of something than those who are not, like some of the other kids who were running around playing, laughing, stuff. Kevin would be sitting there idly with kind of a glazed over look on his face, and so we would reach out to him to try to get a reaction and see if maybe we could make things better.
I think I favored certain kids, especially Kevin, over others, because when we first arrived, it was clear that he was weaker than his brother and cousin. It just seemed like he was getting a little bit less attention, maybe, and he had a super flat affect. He had a largely distended stomach, and he just seemed a lot weaker. So I think that I was concerned for him and spent a lot of time with him. And I think when we got to see him smile and when we got to see him laugh, it was such a reward and it was such joy that I wanted to spend more time with him.
Regardez, essayez d'imiter position, monsieur. C'est la meilleure position. Tout ça le fait faire. Ouais.
It was hard to go into a situation where the kids didn't have the things that we had growing up, and their parents were unable to provide for them in the way our parents do, but then we show up and all of a sudden they have some of the things, maybe not everything that we had, but things that they haven't had before, in terms of food and maybe even attention that their parents weren't giving them. And I don't know if that was a positive thing or a negative thing for them, because it's such a short term. I mean, 3 weeks is not a very long time to give a child something, but maybe it left an impact.
Just to see the situation that these kids are living in compared to kids at home, and like to have to realize how much better off kids at home are, and that there's not a whole lot we could do for these kids except, you know, make their houses better, but that doesn't change a lot about their lifestyle still. So that was hard to realize.
Yeah, I think that it's really challenging and it's really difficult because we want to give them everything, but that's not necessarily what's best, because the bottom line is that at the end of 3 weeks we left and they have a life to live, and if we go in and pretend like we can give them everything and pretend like we can give them a better life, not only is it stepping on the toes of their family and their parents and telling their family that they're not caring for them properly, it's providing them something that the family can't sustain. And the reality is that in 3 weeks you can't pull someone out of poverty. And we had limited time and limited budget, and I think we did the best that we could, but I think it would be unfair to go in and pretend like we could fix the situation.
Hey, Claude, in the house that we're framing out the...
Yes, I'm listening.
Can you tell how many, I know you were, how many people will land there? Will be 9?